Good morning, Algebra 1 students. In this lesson, we're actually going to start factoring. And the first type of factoring we're going to do is we're going to practice factoring out the greatest common factor. Okay, and I'll remind you what it means to factor out and what it means to, what a greatest common factor is. Okay, so first, let's review from our previous lesson what it means to factor out a term. So recall that in earlier grades you learned that distribute means multiply, right? So if you were asked to distribute 2x to x squared minus 10, you know you're asked to multiply 2x times x squared minus 10. And then if you do that, if you distribute, the result is 2x cubed minus 20x. Well, factoring, the way we got from left-hand side to right-hand side is we distributed 2x. Factoring out means doing the reverse, so going backwards, or to divide out. So if you're asked to factor out 2x from 2x cubed minus 20x, you know that you're asked to divide. And then if you go to the previous lesson, the last lesson for last week, I remind you how to actually divide two terms by one term and so on. But if you factor out 2x, you get 2x cubed minus 20x equals 2x times, so you divide this by 2x, you get 2x times x squared minus 10. So factor out means to divide out. And then remember what it means to be the greatest common factor for algebraic terms. So this is a summary of some of the examples we did last time. So let's say you have two algebraic terms, 125x to the fourth, and then you have 600x squared, and you're asked to find their greatest common factor. The first thing you do is write out prime factorization of each. So 125x to the fourth is 5 times 5 times 5 times x times x times x times x. 600x squared is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 5 times x times x. So, and then you look at the common factors. So they have a 5 in common, they have another 5 in common, they have an x in common, and another x in common. 5 times 5 is 25, times x is 25x, times another x is 25x squared. So the greatest common factor of 125x to the fourth and 600x squared is 25x squared. And then this looks like, if it feels like you've already done these, it's because you have. So I've done these last time. This is just a review, so you have them with these notes as well. If you're asked to find the greatest common factor of 143y cubed, 26y squared, and 130y, so I'm first going to write 143y cubed is 11 times 13 times y times y times y. 26y squared is 2 times 13 times y times y. 130y is 2 times 5 times 13 times y. So they have a 13 in common and they have a y in common. 13 times y is 13y. So the greatest common factor of these three terms is 13y. It's the biggest term that divides into all three without a remainder. And the last example, find the GCF, or the greatest common factor of 8y squared, 2y, and 14. 8y squared is 2 times 2 times 2 times y times y. 2y is 2 times y. And 14 is 2 times 7. So these three factorizations, they have a 2 in common, and that's it, right? They have no other factors in common. All three have to have them. So the greatest common factor of 8y squared, 24y, and 14 is 2. All right. Go ahead and review the last lesson if you don't remember how to do this, because this is going to be important for the rest of it. All right. So now let's kind of get to what the skill we're practicing today. So I'm giving you a trinomial, right? 12y to the fourth minus 3y cubed plus 6y squared. Note that I cannot simplify this any further because these are not like terms. These are not like terms. So I can't add them anymore. Now, what are you being asked to do with this? Well, I'm asking you to factor out or to divide out the greatest common factor term from this polynomial. All right, I'm going to give you steps on how to do it. Okay. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to consider each of these terms separately. So 12y to the fourth, 3y cubed, and 6y squared. And I'm going to find the greatest common factor that I'm going to be factoring out in a moment. All right, so I'm going to find the greatest common factor of 12y to the fourth, which is the first term, 3y cubed, which is the second term, and 6y squared, which is the third term. Okay, so 12y to the fourth is 2 times 2 times 3 times y times y times y. 3y cubed is 3 times y times y times y. 6y squared is 2 times 3 times y times y. Alright, so that's the prime factorization of all three terms. Now I'm going to look for common factors. All three terms have a factor of 3 in common. All three terms have a factor of y in common. And all three terms have a factor of another y in common. 3 times y is 3y squared. So the greatest common factor is 3y squared. Alright? It's the greatest common factor of the coefficients and then the variable with the lowest power. If you can do this in your head, you do not have to write this out, okay? If you can just look at these three terms and know what the greatest common factor is because you've practiced the previous examples, I'm okay with that. But the greatest common factor is 3y squared. You're asked to factor out the greatest common factor. So I'm going to be factoring out 3y squared from 12y to the fourth minus 3y cubed plus 6y squared. And then remember, to factor out means I'm dividing this polynomial, this trinomial, by 3y squared. So I'm going to write 12y to the fourth minus 3y cubed plus 6y squared divided by 3y squared. Then I'm going to rewrite division problem as a fraction that we're used to, right? Then, again, if you can do this in your head, that's all right. But I'm going to apply the distributive property to write this as a division problem. Okay? And then I did take extra steps in the last examples, but I think we've done this enough where I can just do a shortcut here to simplify. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Y to the fourth divided by y squared is y squared. It's going to be the top power minus the bottom power, okay? We kind of figured that out from the last few slides because you're going to have 4 y's on the top, you're going to have 2 y's on the bottom, and then you're just going to end up with 2 y's on the top when you're done canceling them out. 3y cubed divided by 3y squared. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Y cubed divided by y squared, you're going to have 1y left over. If you write them out, you can write them out to divide. 6y squared divided by 3y squared. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Y squared divided by y squared is 1. It's not 0, right? So you're just going to get 2. Okay, so in our last step, we're actually going to write out what happens if you factor out 3y squared. So you're going to get 12y to the fourth minus 3y cubed plus 6y squared equals 3y squared times our result here, 4y squared minus y plus 2.